The Corvette is much more than just a car. It represents liberty and power by being on the open roads, an American icon. Generations of the Corvette have changed dramatically since 1953. But there's one that's been special, the 1967 L88. Why? We'll be talking about that today. Hit that like and subscribe, and let's find out. With every generation, stakes of performance, style, and engineering were raised in the successors. There is one that has completely transcended from the realm of automotive excellence to legendary status, the 1967 L88 Corvette, out of the 8 generations of Corvettes. It isn't an also-ran in automotive history, but a mythical creature that inspires many enthusiasts and collectors alike. When new, an L88 Corvette was among the quickest production cars on the planet. Even today, it is the holy grail for collectors, pulling down millions at auction. This makes the L88 special. It has that special something that really grips car lovers all over the world. First off, to understand the magic of the L88, we need to take a closer look at the car on which it was based, the second-generation Corvette, or C2, built between 1963 and 1967. It was in this very era when manufacturers were hard-pressed to come up with a car that was faster, more powerful, and more advanced. The C2 Corvette was another creature from that time and top-down designed as an outright sports car. The foundation, the C2 Corvette. The C2 generation was a big step forward for the Corvette. While stylish, the original Corvette, the C1, was relatively underpowered, initially offered with a straight-six engine. The V8 didn't come until 1955, and that really was when the Corvette started to build its performance street cred. By the time the C2 rolled around in 1963, the Corvette had fully embraced its high-performance sports car role. The C2 Corvette, better known as the Stingray, was radical in its appearance compared to its predecessors. It was lower, wider, and more aggressive, with a sleek, very shark-like look that foreshadowed quite well the power within the hood. The car was designed from scratch to mount a V8 engine, virtually improving the performance of the previous generation C1. One of the major innovations of the C2 was its fully independent rear suspension, which gave it much superior handling to most American cars of its time. When combined with its power V8 engines, this made the C2 very competitive both on the road and at the racetrack. Early C2 models had a 327 cubic inch small block engine, whose output, even in its top trim, was well in excess of 360 horsepower. This was a very impressive figure for those times, but Chevrolet didn't feel like stopping there. As the 1960s progressed, bigger power requests led Chevrolet to offer a whole lineup of big block engines in the Corvette. These were the 396 and the 427 cubic inch motors that successfully launched the Corvette into a different performance stratosphere. The 427 big block in its own right was phenomenal, bringing more than 400 horsepower and seriously establishing the Corvette as an outright contender in the world of high-performance cars. While the regular C2 Corvettes with the 427 were monsters in their own right, what was brewing at Chevrolet would be even more extreme. A car really pushing the envelope of what could be done with a production vehicle, the L88 Corvette. The birth of a legend, the L88 Corvette. The L88 wasn't any other Corvette model. It was a race car made specifically for that purpose, but dressed in the skin of a street car. The L88 from Chevrolet, introduced in 1967, the final year for C2, certainly was not like many other cars on the street. The heart of this beast was its 427 cubic inch big block. But this particular version of the 427 did not bear a close resemblance to the one fitted to other Corvette variants. In its place was a high-compression, seriously tweaked animal whose only real purpose was racing. Officially, the L88 was rated at 430 horsepower by General Motors, but this rating was a deliberate understatement. The L88 cranked out closer to 560 horsepower. In effect, it was the most powerful production engine of its time. Once again, the question becomes, why is the official rating so low? Part of it was to keep insurance premiums low, a common practice during the muscle car era. But the main reason was this: Chevy didn't want the L88 ending up in the hands of those unqualified to handle its excesses. The L88 was no car for the faint of heart. Tailored for one thing and one thing alone, outright performance. This brute, no-compromise machine screamed performance with every element related to it, from its high-lift camshaft and forged internals to aluminum cylinder heads and a 12.5 to 1 compression ratio. This wasn't even an engine that would run on the type of 103-octane gasoline available at the local gas station. Chevrolet knew full well this L88 was going to be a handful on the street, so it did all in its power to make it less attractive to casual buyers. There's a long list of deletions here. No heater, no air conditioning, no radio, not even a fan shroud to assist cooling. The idea was to discourage any person who wasn't serious about racing from buying the L88. Even the transmission was race-ready. The L88 came standard with a Muncie M22 Rock Crusher 4-speed manual gearbox specifically designed to be able to cope with the high torque output of this engine. It was known for its straight-cut gears, so it was noisy yet very strong, hence perfect for high-performance demands on the track. Track-ready, performance beyond the streets. But the L88 wasn't just a big engine and a tough transmission. It was an all-out performance package. Heavy-duty components were used in the suspension, and the car got a positraction rear end with drag-oriented 4.56 gears. This setup was great for getting the car off the line in a drag race, but made the L88 a beast to drive at ordinary speeds. This vehicle just was not practical for everyday driving though. Due to a very stiff suspension and high rear-end gear ratio, the driving became really uncomfortable. But on the track, the L88 truly found its place. Lightweight plus its extremely high power output made it a formidable competitor against all types of races. If put in the hands of a capable driver, an L88 could outperform almost everything else out on the streets. While being an awesome performing vehicle, the L88 was a total commercial flop, at least by the day's standards. Chevrolet produced only 216 L88 Corvettes between 1967 and 1969, with only 20 of them produced in 1967, the last year for the C2 body style. It simply wasn't a car that was going to sell profitably in high volume, with its high price and an uncompromising attitude that limited its appeal. Most buyers bought the more street-friendly editions of the Corvette. But what the L88 lacked in sales, it more than made up for in legacy. Today, an L88 Corvette stands as one of the most coveted collector cars in the world, particularly the 1967 models, which evolved into becoming the holy grail for Corvette lovers. With only 20 ever produced and a few still in existence, these cars command prices into the millions when they go to auction. Those being obvious, in very recent years, a 1967 L88 that has sold for as much as $2.65 million. Legacy of the L88. Why do collectors still care, more than 50 years after the L88 Corvette was built? The first answer is, it's rare, with a bit of a myth-like quality. But then there is more to it. The L88 is an emblem of the lost era of the car, when manufacturers were hardwired to keep moving at the edge of what was doable. To build raw, powerful, totally without apology for performance. More than just a car, the L88 Corvette was also a statement. It showed the world just how far Chevrolet was capable of going if it literally threw caution to the wind and targeted nothing but raw performance. As far as the allure of this model car, a limited number actually built only heightens it, quite literally making the L88 a collector's item. The L88 today is a car not only celebrated for its performance, but for the symbolism it bears, the most supreme creation to be birthed during the muscle car era, when American manufacturers were in a horsepower war with each other, and each sought to outclass the other by coming up with bigger, faster, and more powerful machines. It was Chevrolet's ultimate weapon for that fight, still commanding respect and admiration more than half a century later. Of all classic cars, very few have built up this sort of legendary status as the 1967 L88 Corvette does. If you are one of the few who gets a chance to look at one from up close, just take a minute and appreciate its beauty, engineering, and overall legacy. Some things are evergreen, and this car stands true to that statement. Have you ever seen an L88? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're there, make sure to drop a like and subscribe for more content on your favorite cars. We'll see you next time. Until then, drive safe, my friends. Want to know about the 10 rarest Hemi-powered B-body Mopars in the US history? Check out this video to find out.